Mayank Agarwal here, and in this tutorial we are going to see the classes and objects, the further part. So in the previous class we had seen what is a class, right? A quick recap, fine. So this collab notebook link will be shared in the description, right? All thanks to Milind Parmar, right? So we saw an example here in the case yesterday, right? So basically we have a class student, right? So class is like a inbuilt data type kind of, right? For example, int, float, string are inbuilt. With class, you can create your own custom data types also. So I'm defining here class student, and for every class, you can define objects. For example, here we have student object, fine. So how do you define a student object? You just write the name of the class. You can see student is the name of the class, and you give a parenthesis like a function, and then you define objects, right? How do you call this learn method, right? Dr. Milind Parmar's class on Python programming, we just type the name of the object and then type the name of the function. If you want to create another function, so let's say another object, let's say this is student2, and I can just press control enter. It will ask me for the first time to run anyway. I will just do it directly, right? It will take some time to initialize and run, right? It's connecting, see, it's connecting to the workbook. So the very first execution takes time, and later on it's very quick from Google Colab, right? So you can see it's printed twice. Now what is a class constructor, right? So in the class constructor, if you see, just let us read the theory. In the examples above, we have created an object from the person class, right? So we have a student class here. From the student, we have created an object. Person class is also above. There is an example here. See, P is equal to person. So P is an object from person class. However, a class without a constructor is not really helpful in real application, right? So what does the constructor word actually mean? So see, for example, let us take the example of Nokia, right? So whenever Nokia produces a smartphone, right, or a normal mobile phone, let us have the class as class Nokia phones, right? So we have a class called as Nokia phones, right? Let me just go back to the drawing board. Right, so I am having class, let's say Nokia phone. Fine. Now what happens here? Why do you need a constructor, right? So why do you need a constructor? Let's say Nokia decides that, okay, now we need to actually produce some more mobile phones of a particular brand, of a particular model number, right? So now what happens in that case? So let's say our classic Nokia 3310 is there, right? So now what happened whenever this production starts, let us say you are asked to write a class for it. So you know that Nokia 3310, let's say it has SMS feature, it has a call feature, the color is gray, right? And the border is, I think, blue, right? The display is 1.5 inch. So all the Nokia 3310 will have these kind of display, right? I mean, the display is, let's say 3.5, whatever it is, right? So the point here I am making is any Nokia 3310, whenever I want to make, I actually want that these things should be auto initialized, right? Auto initialized. Now what do I mean by auto initialized? That the moment I say ki, okay, I want to make a Nokia 3310, all these things should be automatically assigned. It should not be like I have to write a manual assignment for every mobile of belonging to 3310. Now let us see one example. This will make it clear, right? So first let us see this example. So see, I have made a class person, right? And I'm defining a function. Now this function is a special function, right? Underscore underscore init underscore underscore, right? So this is basically acts as a constructor function. I will tell you what is a constructor function once again, but let us see, it takes two parameters, self and name. Self, as I told you yesterday, like for example, there are two students with the name Ankit and Shreya. When I call Ankit, I say, okay, describe yourself. He will say myself Ankit. When I say Shreya, she will say myself Shreya. So you can see myself is same to both, but depending on which student I am asking, they will replace their own names. Right? Now see what I am doing, I am creating an object P for the person class, and I am passing Milan to this function. So what happens whenever you are passing some objects, it will directly pass to the constructors, right? So this is the constructor. How do we identify the constructor? It will always have the function name init in it. So this is an inbuilt function name, you cannot change it. You have to keep it to this value only. Fine. So this is how basically it works. Fine. So now what happens when I'm passing Milan? Milan basically passes to the name function. And this object P, what happens to the object P? Basically object P is calling this. Basically if you see, I am accessing the person class. I am accessing the person class using object P. So in this case, the self will be the object P. If I, let's say, create an object Q here, I am creating an object Q, and let us name it CS384. So now you can see there are two objects. One is the name Milan and other is the name CS384. You can also see the memory allocation to it, right? So the address is 3110 and then followed by 3150, showing that these are two physical objects in the memory, right? So constructor function basically assigns default values to the object which are created, right? So let us see a more detailed example. So for example, I'm defining a class person. Here you can see it's a init function. So it's a constructor. And how many parameters? The first parameter for class function is always self, indicating whatever objects calls it, it is relating to that object. So now you can see I have first name, last name, age, country, and city. So now what happens when I'm defining a person, Milan Parmar 96, England and London. Fine. So what happens here? Milan will go to first name. So the first name for the object P is set to Milan. Similarly, Parmar. Age is set to 96. This just goes correspondingly, right? England will go in country, London will come here. So now you see how easy it has become to define objects, right? So for example, let us say I make a new object Q, right? Let me just keep this as Q. So let us name here Sachin Tendulkar, let's say 49, India and Mumbai, right? So I can make an object like this and the constructor will automatically initialize, right? So you can see Q, Q, Q dot country and Q dot city. You can see Sachin Tendulkar 49 India has come. Now just see the beauty of constructor, right? So what is happening here in normal cases, if you would have defined, it would have been something like Q dot first name is equal to Sachin, right? For each and every object, you would have to do a separate definition, or maybe, if you write a function, then you need to pass to a function and then return all those values and then catch up those values. Fine. Look how easy the class function, the class constructor makes it. You are just initializing, you are not returning anything, right? Constructor does not return anything, it just initializes basic values that we are assigning. Fine. Now we will see what are instance variables and method, right? Again, another important concept, instance variables and method. So if the value of a variable varies from object to object, then such variable are called instance variable, right? So for every object, a separate copy of instance variable will be created. Now what do you mean by that? So let us see an example here, right? So in the previous case, I actually told you this, right? So for example, for object P, I am having this particular memory location, right? 3110. Then for object Q, I am having another memory location 3150. So you can see for every object that is created, right? For every object that is created, a separate copy of the instance variable will be created. Just like this, for Q, I am storing the information of Sachin Tendulkar. For P, I am storing the information of Milan Parmar. So for every object, right? So for example, if I just do a print P and Q in this case, right? So you can see this is A10, it's a memory location, and then we have 9D0. These are two memory addresses that are basically separated. One is for Milan, other is for Sachin, right? So when we create classes in Python, instance methods are regularly used. Now what are instant methods? Methods are same as function. So you can also say that constructor is also a method. Yeah, it is right. Constructor is a method, but it is self-defined. We don't do calculations or some kind of computation in the constructor. The only job of constructor is to initialize the objects, right? Now let us see this example. I am creating a class student. Again, init means this is a constructor, right? So I'm initializing two things, name and percentage. So I'm making a student whose name is Arthur and percentage is 90. So what happens? Arthur goes to name, 90 goes to percentage. Then what happens? Stud is the object, so self will be containing stud in this case. When you make a new object, self will be automatically updated. So the moment I create the stud object, stud, the name is Arthur and the percentage is 90. Now you can see I'm defining another function here, which is known as instance method. So when you deal with classes, we usually call them as methods, or basically these are functions also, right? But the terminology used is methods. Now what happens here? So when we are calling stud.show, right? So basically show is the name of the function, but since classes are bound by their objects, we need to invoke an object that will call this particular method. Now what is that object? The object is stud.show, right? We are calling the show function using the stud object. Now you can see in this name what I am doing. I am doing self.name and self.percentage. Now since the show function is called by the stud, since the show function is called by stud object, self will be stud. So what is stud.name? It is Arthur. What is stud.percentage? It is 90, right? So you can now see, let us define another thing. So we will have stud2, we will have stud2, we will have Sachin, and let's say this is 49. Right? So name is Sachin and percentage is 49. Now you can see the beauty of self. Self automatically updates, okay, since I am being invoked by stud2, right? Since I am being invoked by stud2, what is the stud2 containing? It contains Sachin and 49. So basically this will be updated accordingly, right? Now let us see a quick map of whatever features that we have learned till now. So first is the constructor, right? So we usually start a class and define a constructor so that it is easier to remember and map. How is a constructor defined? Double underscore init, double underscore. First parameter of every Python class function or class method is self, right? Then these are parameters to constructor. So what are the parameters? You are passing Arthur and 90. So these are the parameters. You are passing two parameters. So just like functions, you need to collect them into two parameters. Self is used to store the object which has called the constructor, right? So basically we have self.name is equal to name. So this is known as instance variable. Why variable? Because when I create a new object, this particular thing will change. But this self.name and self.percentage, so these are class variables, right? Variables belonging to the class. So these remain the same, but these values keep on changing. Now you can see show is a function. So this is known as instance method or instance function, right? Method is more commonly used. And now what is the object of a class? So you write the class name, write parenthesis, and on the left hand side whatever remains is the object of a class, right? And then when you are invoking the function, you just check from which thing you are actually calling, right? So for example, when you are calling the show function using the object stud, basically information relating to stud will be printed here, right? Now let us try to create some more objects and some more complex examples. So let us say now I create a class parrot, right? So now you can see this is the constructor because we have underscore underscore init underscore underscore, right? Then we have self, then we have name and age. So basically this constructor takes in two parameters, name and age. Now you can see instantiate the parrot class. Instantiate means you create an instance of the class. What do you mean by creating an instance of a class? Creating objects, basically blue and blue. right? So what is the name of the class? Parrot. So you can see I'm creating two parrots here. One is named Blue, one is named Woo, right? I'm passing the name as Blue and the age of the parrot. Similarly, age of the parrot is here and the name and age is here. So I'm creating two parrots, right? Now you can see this is a new thing which is known as class attribute. See how many parrots I create, all those parrots will be birds, right? So this you can actually think like kind of this property is applicable to all objects, right? So when you define a variable inside a class like this, basically this property will be attached to every class object that you create. Now what do I mean by that? Let us see. Blue is a, and in format I am typing blue. So right now just forget underscore underscore class and species, right? So basically what I'm saying, see, blue is an object of class parrot, right? So what happens here, blue underscore underscore class, that means to whichever class the object blue belongs, just print out that property of species to me. So you can see what is the property of species. Species is bird. Once again, blue basically is the name of the object. This object belongs to which class? Parrot. So underscore underscore class means basically this object and the class to which it belongs, and then we need to specify what is the attribute species here. What is species? Species is always bird. So you can see this output is blue is a bird, right? Blue is a, what is the to be printed? Species. Species is bird. Woo is also a, again species. Woo is also a bird, right? Now what we are doing, access the instance variable attributes, right? So these are known as class attributes. See, this is a class attribute. Now why do we call it a class attribute? Because this attribute belongs to the class parrot, and all the objects that are made out of this parrot class will share this particular attribute. As against this, these are instance variable, the name and the age, right? Because we define them separately for every bird using the constructor. So you can see dash is dash year old dot format, blue dot name and blue dot age. What was blue's name? Blue and 10. So you can see blue is 10-year-old and Woo is 15-year-old. Fine. I hope this is clear. So in the above example, we create a class with the name parrot. Obviously, we have a class and the name. Then we define attributes. These attributes are characteristic of an object, right? So basically these are objects, fine. And then we define attributes. So what are attributes? So this is an attribute, right? This is again attribute, instance attribute, fine. So attributes help us to define the class in a more meaningful and a practical manner, fine. So now let us see some theory about it. So then when we create an instance of parrot class, that is blue and woo, which are references to our new class objects, we can access the class attribute. See, remember the thing, class attribute using class dot species, right? It's not saying instance attribute. It's saying class attribute. So what was class attribute in this case? This was species. This is the class attribute. The comment is also given, right? Class attributes are the same for all instances of a class, right? So as I said, class attributes are same for all instances. So basically this property will remain the same for all the objects that I'm making for the class. Similarly, we access the instance attribute by using blue.name and blue.age. See, this is an instance attribute. Why instance attribute? Because the property of instance attribute depends on the object which is calling the method. It depends on the object which is calling the method. However, instance attributes are different for every instance of a class, right? Every instance of a class. Because whenever you create a new object, right? For example, this is an instance for blue. Name is blue, age is 10, instance is Woo. Name is Woo, age is 50. Fine. Now object method. Now what do I mean by object method, right? So we have already seen this person class, fine. right? So let us see now what are object methods. So object methods are function defined inside the body of a class, right? So when you define a class, right? So basically this is the body of the class, right? This is the body of the class. They are used to define the behavior of an object, right? Behavior of an object. So let us see an example directly so you will understand how these things work. So as again, we are again initializing this person with the same attributes that we saw in the previous, just few minutes ago. So we have Milan goes to first name, Parmar, 96, England, and this. So the moment you create an object, this object is initialized to these values. Fine. Now you can see I'm calling the person info, right? I'm calling the person info function from the object P. So what happens in this particular case is we have self dot first name, self dot last name is self age year old, right? So we are using the F string format here that we had seen, right? So what happens now here, see I am calling the person info using the object P, right? So what will come in the self dot first name? So whatever was initialized for the object P using the constructor. So you can see the output in this case is Milan Parmar is 96-year-old. He lives in London, England. Right? So basically this is the object method. Right? Why method? Because it's a function and then you are invoking this class function using an object. See, you cannot directly call a class function. So for example, if you want to see, let us try to call this function directly the traditional way we call functions. It will pop an error. Right? It will say name person info is not defined. Now you may say that okay, we have defined it here, right? Because this definition is inside the class and you can only invoke this definition using the object of that class, using object. So for example, p dot person info, you cannot invoke it directly. Fine. So this is the beauty of a class, right? So you can see automatically I am securing these functions, right? So even if people know what is the name of the function or something like this, unless they know the name of the class, which is usually encapsulated, this function is hidden from the access of outside world. Fine. So let me execute it again so that this error window goes out. Right. Now let us see creating object methods again. So we are defining a class parrot, right? So what happens? We are defining the constructor, right? So we are defining the name and the age and the instance attributes, right? So what is an instance method? So in the instance method, you can see I'm defining one function which is sing. So like the parrot will sing a song and I'm passing the song which the parrot will sing. I'm also defining a function dance. Here I'm not specifying anything. So the parrot is now dancing. So I'm just specifying the name and the song in the previous case and in this case only the name. So I'm defining a parrot blue. I am defining a parrot blue. So basically what I do, I just copy the name of the class and I'm initializing blue with the age 10. So blue comes here and age basically comes to 10. So now what I'm doing, I'm passing the function blue.sing is happy, right? Blue.sing is happy. So now what happens in this particular case is I go to the sing function. Sing function is called by the object blue. Blue had the properties that the name is blue and the age is 10. So what is this name here and the song here? Name is blue sings. What is the song? Song name is happy. Blue sings happy and blue is now dancing. So second I'm calling blue.dance. I'm passing no parameters because there is only self parameter here. So the blue is dancing right now. Right. So you may think that okay, just doing for this small thing we could have directly used a functions, but you need to realize the beauty of a class, right? First of all, this function cannot be accessed by anyone and it cannot be directly called. We have to only make use of class objects in order to call this function. Next thing, for example, if I make a function, I need to keep a track of return values. I need to check whether what variables are being declared in the function. Am I calling them perfectly or no? There is no such issue in the class. Everything goes very well organized. Constructor will help you initialize automatically. So there are no unnecessary declarations or assignments in the main. Right? You just pass on the variables and it automatically initializes. Fine. So object default methods. Now you have seen default methods in Python, right? So for example, I can pass add, or I can say multiplication functions a comma b is equal to 1. So in this case, b is not specified. The second parameter is not specified. We can always take b as 1 as the default parameter. The same thing happens in this particular case. Now you can just see in the previous case, let me just copy this particular thing. So this was without the default values, and now this is with the default values. Just for an example, you can see this is the class person. This is the class person. We are defining init. We are defining init here. Self first name. Here we did not have default values. But here you can see I have defined default values. First name is equal to Milan, last name equal to Parmar, age, England, and this. Here also the same rules apply like it happened in the function. Now you can see I'm defining a person P1, right? I'm not passing anything. As against if you see in this particular example, we had passed all the variables. So here I'm not passing anything. So what happens, since I'm not passing anything, object P1 will be created with all these values automatically, right? Because we are specifying the default parameters in this case. We are specifying the default parameters in this case, right? Now what happens, you can see in the person 2, I'm defining the person Ben Do 30 Finland and temporary. So now what happens in this case, since I'm passing the values physically, all these value will be written, overwritten basically. So Milan internally will be replaced by Ben, Parmar will be replaced by Do, 96 by 30, England by Finland, and London by temporary, right? So again you can see, for example, oh sorry, I just did not remove this. So in this example, you can see Milan Parmar is 96-year-old. He lives in London, and Bendo is 30 years old. He lives in Tempe. Right? So you can see how easy now it is to initialize an object. You can just define some default values, right? So now you will say, where would we use this, right? So you can use this, for example, in your batch, right? Let's say IIT Patna has 10 branches. For example, if I want to initialize the 21 IIT JEE batch for, let's say, mechanical department. So I can create a class mech 21 BTech, right? And what are the default values that I will give? Degree equal to BTech, branch equal to mechanical, right? Branch type is equal to core. So I know every student of mechanical will share all these properties. So what I can do, I can write here branch name mechanical, branch type as core, and course is equal to BTech Mech, right? Something like this. So any student which I create 1801 CS ME01, I can just initialize. So all those values will be pre-initialized, right? Making the structure so clean and so neat, right? So now the method to modify class default values. Now what do we mean by modifying the class default values? Now let us see, this is an interesting example, right? So I'm defining a class person here. You can see all these things are same in the previous example, right? First name Milan, last name Parmar, age 96, country England, and city London. Now you can see I'm defining a list here, right? Square parameters, square brackets, sorry. So I'm defining the skills here. So now what happens with these skills, right? So I'm defining a person info here. So you can see this person is itna years old. He lives in so and so city. And now I'm defining add skill here. I'm defining a function add skill, which is taking the parameter input as skill. And then what I'm doing, see skills is a list. So I can use the append object to add a skill, right? Since skills is a list, right? I can use the append property or the append function in order to append things to the list, right? So now see what I'm doing here. Now there are two interesting things to observe. So I'm defining P1 as a person. So you can see Milan, Parmar, 96, England, and London. This will be auto initialized, right? So I'm saying, okay, person1.info. So it's saying Milan Parmar is 96-year-old. He lives in London, England, right? Now let us see what happens here. Now I am saying, okay, this person info is printed. Now I am saying p1 dot add skill. Now you can see add skill is a function, it's automatically highlighted. So what I'm doing here, P1 is the object for person, right? So this is the first person with the name Milan Parmar. Now see, I'm calling the function add skill. Now see, add skill is a function which is belonging to the class person. Add skill is a function or a method that belongs to the class person. So only objects which are created from the persons can call this. So right. So person is a class here and P1 is the object. So P1 dot add skill, right, which is Python. So what happens here when I call the function add skill, Python gets passed here. So Python comes into skill, and what was self? Self is the object which initiated this function. So this P1, right? So Python comes here, and in append I am actually adding Python here. So what happens for the person Milan Parmar, for the person Milan Parmar, now I have added one skill which is Python. Now I'm again calling the function add skills. Since I'm doing append, now I will add MATLAB, and subsequently I will add R as the skill of person P1. Why P1? Because I'm invoking it through P1 object, right? Now you can see I'm similarly adding a person 2 like in the previous case. I'm displaying the person 2 info and I'm displaying both the skills. Now as you can see, for P2 I did not call the add skill function. What is the default value of the skills? It is a bracket. It's an empty bracket. So now what happens when I press this control enter, you can see Python MATLAB R. Why? Because I added three skills here which were subsequently appended. So now you can see one important thing of class is that a class variable can also be modified, right? It can be modified directly or it can be modified using a function of that class, right? It can be modified using a function of that class. So now what do I mean by that? So for example, I write that definition here, right? Let me just write the definition here, right? So now if I add this definition here, it won't actually work, right? Because whenever you are calling the class function, so what happens basically, this P1 dot add skill, P1 is an object of class person. So the moment it sees a class, it basically jumps the cursor to this point. Now it says, okay, add skill. So add skill, it now sees, okay, add skill is a part of my class. So I can execute the function add skill, right? So a good method to attribute or a good method to modify the class attributes is to invoke it or basically alter it through the class function, right? Through a class function, right? Yeah, class. Now coming to a very important concept in object oriented programming is inheritance, right? So inheritance, as the name specifies, see, we all inherit some qualities from our parents, right? So some from mom, some from dad, right? So we inherit some qualities, and we also see, like in India, there is like ये तो बाप पे गया है, ये माँ जैसा है, ये इसकी तरह दिखता है and all, right? So he has attributes of his father, his hairstyle is like that, his height has gone on father, or his eyes are like mother and all those things, right? So these are the things actually that we inherit, right? So Python also provides us with a very powerful OOPS concept, which is known as inheritance, right? So let us see, why do we use inheritance? So in let us see the theory in Python. Inheritance is the process of inheriting the property of base class into a derived class, right? Base class is same as the parent class. So for example, in this case, this is the base class, right? This is the base class, right? And what is the derived class? It's a child class, right? So base class or parent class, they are the same thing, used interchangeably. Derived class or child class is again the same thing, used interchangeably, right? So in an object oriented programming language, inheritance is an important aspect, right? So what happens here? So now for example, I will give you a very nice example of inheritance, right? So for example, let us say we have a class here, Samsung smartphone, right? So it will have various features that a smartphone has. So let's say It has a screen which is, let's say, 5.5 inch. It has a call facility. It has a SMS facility. It has OTT app viewing facility. And now what happens? So all these features, usually on smartphones, we have a straight screen. Now Samsung has come up with the folded screens also. So what I will do, I will say class folded Samsung smartphone, right? Now you can see that all these features are always up anyways a part of this folded Samsung phone, right? The only thing here differing is screen, right? The screen will be is equal to folded, right? So you know that all the features of a smartphone are anyways intact, right? They are anyways intact. So in derived class, we do this thing, right? We pick everything from the base class. So in this is the base class, right? And this is the derived class. So what happens in the derived class? So in the derived class, we inherit the properties of the base class. There are various rules, but right now just remember we are inheriting the properties of the base class into here. So this is the child and this is the parent, right? This is the child, this is the parent. Fine. So now what is the advantage here is that, so for example, if I use this class which is tested and tried and there are no errors, I know that when I will inherit these qualities into a derived class, all these properties will work perfectly. I only need to check and test those properties which are different here. I need to check and test those properties that are different here. Right? So now we will see use of inheritance, right? How do you define? So we have a class which is known as a base class, right? And then you can see we have a class which is a derived class, right? So now you can see if it is confusing as the base class and derived class. So let me just show you an example. So this is, I will say, parent class, parent, okay, child class. So this is how it looks. So we are defining two classes, class parent and class child, right? Class child. And you can see in the child, I am in the brackets actually writing parent. That means I am deriving the properties of the parent class into this, right? So whatever class name you write here, of particular that class, the properties are derived, right? Of that class, the properties are derived. Now let us see a very simple and a very basic example. So what we are doing here, we are defining class 1 and then we are defining class 2, right? Class 2 is inheriting class 1. How do I know? Because in the bracket it is specifying the name of class 1, right? You can see there are no brackets here. So this is the parent class, the base class, right? Now what I'm defining function 1, which basically is saying this is the parent class, and I'm defining a function 2 here which is having as the child class. Now how does inheritance help us? Inheritance, like what we are inheriting, we are inheriting class 1 attributes as well as methods. So there are no attributes here, there are only methods here. So internally, when I'm writing this class 1, when I'm writing this class 1 as the inherited one for the class 2, so internally a very rough happens, what happens is like all the functions and the attributes of this class can be accessed as if they are defined in class 2, right? So I'm just copying this line and pasting here. So I'm just telling you it is not a physical paste, whatever it is inheriting. So class 2 is inheriting class 1. So if I had defined 100 functions here, I can actually access those 100 functions from class 2 also. Just like the child inherits the qualities of the parent. So now you can see, let me just erase this. So what I'm doing, I'm creating an object of class 2 straight away. I'm creating an object of class 2, right? So let me just hide this line and run the code. So you will say, okay, fine enough. You have created a class 2 object and now you are calling the function 2. Function 2 is a part of class 2, so that prints this is the child class. Now you can see I can even call function 1 from this object. This object was of class 2, right? This object was of class 2. So it should be only able to call functions which are residing in class 2. So if you see function 1 is defined in class 1, so should not be accessible, right? So now let me remove this particular thing, right? I am removing the bracket. See, it is giving me an error, right? Class 2 object has no attribute function 1, right? Because object is of class 2, this has no function which is function 1. It has only function 2, right? So now, but the thing is, when I make this inherited, so inherited means this object is of class 2. So anyways, it can access everything which is of class 2. That is for sure. That is always. It can access anything which is of class 2. But it can also access the inherited class functions. It can also access inherited class functions. So what are inherited class function? In this case, it is class 1. So now object 1, when I call function 1, right, it says, you can see this is the parent class. Why? Because when I say object dot fun1, it just checks, okay, function 1 is of class 1, object is of class 2. Is it inheriting class 1? Yes, I am inheriting class 1, so I can execute this particular function, right? This is the whole concept of inheritance. Inheritance is very widely used in industry. Concept behind this is simple. If you have made something which is working perfectly well, and if you want to make a new product which uses existing technologies or existing whatever we have, sophisticated instruments, etc., we can just define a new class which is just a little different in the sense, if you want to implementing some function which are strictly to this class, right, which are strictly to this class. Now remember class one thing, even you have inherited, right? Even if you have inherited, let's see, now let me make this as class one. So what happens? Object 2 is of class 1, right? So any object of class 1 can surely access its own function, but now object 2, which is of class 1, cannot access this class. Even though this is getting inherited, but it cannot access the function 2 because these properties can be accessed by class 2, but the reverse is not true, right? Class 2 is inheriting class 1, class 1 is not inheriting class 2, right? So you can see this will pop an error, object 2 dot function 2, right? So class 1 has no object function 2, right? So class, that's all for this lecture. We will see some more examples. Okay, so let us cover just the last example. So in this case, we have a class student which is inheriting person. So you remember person object? Let us see here. So this is the person object. So in the person object, I am defining the first name, last name, age, country, and city, right? And some skills for that person. I also have two definitions, right? Or two methods or two functions in this case. Now what I'm doing in this case is, let me just erase this. What I'm doing here, I'm defining a class student. I'm defining nothing in that class. I am just saying that, okay, I'm inheriting everything from the person. So person has 5 initializations and 2 function names. Now you can see S1 and S2 are object of student, which is a derived class out of person, which is a derived class out of person. So we are adding these two students. Now you can see when I execute this code, right, I am adding the skills for student 1, I am adding the skills for student 2. Now you can see, even though I am defining all these things in a derived class or a child class, I am able to completely access the base class. Why? Because I inherited the person class from the for the student class, right? So you can see I did not have to define anything because I know person class was working perfectly well. So I just imported, basically inherited this class, and basically here I am writing pass, right? So I can write one or two functions for my simplicity. That's it, right? So this is how inheritance works. So in this case, what happens, you can see this person info, right? So when I'm calling S1, the person info I'm calling, so what happens, it goes to person because it says inherited, it basically inherits the constructor also. We can directly call the constructor of the base class if you have done the inheritance. So that's it class. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.